Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam. This is the second part of a front yard garden space tour of a neighbor of mine. If you go back, I'll link that other video up here in the corner if you're watching on YouTube, and you can go back to the beginning and see where we are at this point in the video. I've done about half of the front garden space at this point. I finished the last video with this Clerodendrum above my head, and if you want to know more about a glory bower tree, go back and take a look at that video. Pretty amazing, very long bloomed, fragrant plant, and all the pollinators love. Invasive, unfortunately. We're going to move back toward the front foundation planting, and then to the what I think is the west side of the property. if I'm following that in my brain properly, yes, that we're moving to the west, but this is a part shade front yard garden space. Here's another Cryptomeria. They've used a lot of these dwarf Cryptomeria, which are super drought tolerant and just super low maintenance, just perfect little round balls. There are very few conifers, I would say, actually like to be here in my Zone 7B heat island in the city, and this Cryptomeria holds up great. Hinoki cypress doing great up here in the part shade conditions. There's a variegated Hinoki cypress behind the camera right now that we'll see in just a minute. Daylilies planted along this path, and you can see there's a gate back here behind me, and there's several different paths where you have slate, we have brick, we have stone, we have gravel, lots of different mixed things to create the paths in the front garden space. This is a juniper called procumbens nana. Had one of them out by the road, or a couple of them out by the road. Love the garden art that's coming up out of it. This procumbens nana would have to have been here a while. It's come down over this retaining wall and put on quite a bit of growth. So not a fast growing juniper. So that one's been there a while. There's a Cryptomeria up above it, and I actually don't know what variety that is. That one's obviously one that's you got Yoshino Cryptomeria that people use as a screening plant. And then you've got lots of dwarf Cryptomerias. I've got, gosh, I don't know how many dwarf Cryptomerias varieties I have at my house. And then you have super interesting ones. I mean, there's probably hundreds of cultivars at this point. Down below, there's that gold dwarf Hinoki cypress next to the entryway. I've used this same wire vine at the house, and you can see, how it's running through this bed. It's a good ground cover, reduce the amount of mulch you're having to use. It will run, and you can see that it's doing that, but it's controllable. It's not in a big hurry. This has been here a long time to have grown this much. I love the ferns growing out of the fieldstone. I like the walls built out of fieldstone, where the walls don't have to be perfect. I see, frequently most of these dry stack walls, have just, perfect little layered stone, and that's okay, but I'm kind of more drawn to this natural look of this fieldstone. There's a gold juniper planted under it. I think it would have gold new growth if it wasn't in so much shade. Could be new gold. I don't know what variety that is, but it looks good under here. This is kind of a conifer garden right here in the center with lots and lots of different conifers. And there's some Vinca minor also intermingled in that wire vine. There's blue star juniper in this spot. Again, this one would have had to have been here a long time. Blue star is a super slow growing juniper. This one's doing pretty well. I don't know how much sun it's getting out here. In the middle of the day, it's probably getting a couple hours of direct sun. I think for the most part, though, it's in the shade, and it's holding its color really nicely. There's an upright holly right here. This I don't know what variety that is, but it's a heavy fruiting holly. I mean, it is absolutely covered in berries. Unfortunately, there are literally hundreds of named cultivars of upright hollies like this. I wanted to call it Foster at first because it has kind of a narrow leaf on it, but they're shorter than Foster, so I don't think that's what it is. But a nice specimen plant. A lot of the things, they have this conifer space in the middle, but a lot of this garden actually goes to sleep in the winter time. So these conifers and this holly will, at least have something year round that's the same. Moving over to the other side of the front foundation planting, the first side was in the first video, but it's mirrored on this side. You've got a Steed's holly next to the porch. Steeds again, grows like a little Christmas tree. It can be pruned into a perfect little Christmas tree, or it has that kind of columnar habit. This is another one planted back here. These are Duke Gardens plum yews. Great plant in the part shade condition. Super drought tolerant. I love how, you know, they've got this little bird feeder hanging on, you know, what is a found stick and turned it into an interesting piece so they could watch the birds come right up here to the window. It's really super interesting. There's a Dianthus planted in this area. These would have bloomed a little earlier in the season. Still have that blue-green foliage on them. And this is a Lantana, maybe Miss Huff, potentially Miss Huff is what it kind of looks like. This one's hardy in my area if it is Miss Huff. There's some daylilies planted in the rock space, and obviously they've got some sort of drainage issue occasionally because they've put a grate in right there to capture the water that's on these paths, and then they run it through this central piece here. A lot of that water will end up in the ground this way, and slows the water down enough to capture some of it without having it run off the property. Super fast. As we come, again, we're transitioning from a gravel path, you know, to a brick looking path. This is actually pavers. So we've got real bricks, we've got concrete pavers. Again, a lot of interesting things used for the paths. I believe that's likely Ruby loropetalum in that spot. It's got that green in the center because it's not getting quite enough sun, but it still looks great. And I believe those nandinas behind it are lemon lime nandinas with that gold on top of them. They'll get a little more of that gold probably if they had a little more sun on them, but they still look great. And there's a spirea down on the corner that still has a few flowers on it. We'll go down that side before I wrap this video up. A few more pieces I'll show you on this west side. Here's a dogwood, Cornus, Florida, that had bloomed earlier in the spring. It's got the berries on it now. They haven't turned that red color. Eventually will. Here's a Hydrangea paniculata. Don't know what variety this is. You can see it starts off green and will get whiter and whiter. Honestly, could be limelight, although I think limelight would probably be stretching a little bit more in here, so it might be a little lime. That's a possibility. Hasn't gotten its full color. Interesting how in a part shade condition, it's well behind the ones I have at my house that are in the full sun. I've got White Wedding and Moon Dance at my house. All these paniculatas, all these new ones are, you know, fairly similar with slightly more compact or loose forms, but the flowers are all pretty much the same, where they start this lime green color and get whiter and whiter. There's a Mount Airy Fothergilla beside the paniculata. I'm assuming it's Mount Airy. It's got that same blue-green foliage color. This is a native to the southeast United States. Gets a little frilly flower on it in the late winter. Just a great plant, just a great ornamental plant, and nothing beats the fall color on one of these Fothergilla. This one's been given enough space. It's in a part shade condition. And the plant looks really nice. Just a super interesting leaves and foliage color. There's a red twig dogwood. This is probably the place where we have to grow a red twig dogwood in my area. It's a little hot for them here, and so they've got it in this little part shade condition, and it's growing great. I assume it gets pretty red in the wintertime. I've never seen it. It's got the red stems on this new growth. The older growth down here at the bottom is green, typical of this time of year. Again, I don't know. We're having to put it in the part shade to keep it from frying, but you know, does that have any impact on the winter color? I honestly don't know. There's an interesting oak leaf hydrangea back here, and I don't know the variety, but it's got a super compact inflorescence on it. There's about 3 that have finished here. They're very large, super compact inflorescences, and you know, one still on it here. It's more roundish than normal. It does have the point, but it is definitely a little more roundish. Again, I don't know the variety, but another native shrub. It's going to get beautiful fall color on it, and then, you know, of course, the flowers in the summertime. Another one of these Shasta daisies that's again staked up because it's in the part shade. What I didn't show on the Clerodendrum in the first video is that they're underplanted with mondo grass, and you know, look how that's in the full shade under there. I mean, it couldn't be any more shady. And that mondo grass is doing great under there. And to the left, there's another acanthus planted. And let me see if we can get in here close enough to see these kind of thorny, you know, all the thorny stuff that's actually on a spike of acanthus. Hopefully that'll show up. This thing, I don't care where you touch it along this stem, it is trying to bite you back. But again, great addition to the garden. Just know not to grab a hold of them. I'll show you a few more interesting things on the west side of the foundation before we wrap this video up. Again, they continue with these dry stacked walls. There's a couple epimedium in this spot. It's a little dry right now, and it looks like they haven't watered, so they're a little stressed. But they bloom in the late winter into early spring, and look great the rest of the year as well. There's some campanula or bell flowers planted along the side of the sidewalk, and they'll get these little purple flowers. There's a bud on that one right there, but looks like they've done quite a bit of blooming already this season. This is called a cup plant. This is a native perennial, an aster family perennial. You can always, you know, asters all have that similar look. What I like about this one is these triangular leaves on this plant is one of the things that makes this one distinct, and it's got little teeth right on the edge. You know, they're not really that sharp, but I mean, they could get you if you worked at it. But just it's got every bit as interesting a foliage as it does flower, and it's in this part shade condition. They've got it staked up because, you know, something that grows 7 feet in a single season like this is going to need that. The bees are on basically every flower. There's almost no flower on this plant that doesn't have a bee on it. Again, just kind of excited to show this plant. I've never had it in a video where it was, you know, peak season, and it's just one of those that really stands out in the garden. There's some more American beautyberry right in this spot. There hadn't been any in this video. There was some in the first video. Native, long flowering, tons of berries, grows in the sun or the shade or the wet or the dry or pretty much anywhere you want to put it. Birds eventually will take the berries in the fall as they mature. And then there's a red bud just on the other side of the fence, and various things behind here that are used for screening. There's I see a rhododendron to the left of the pine tree. There's a large leaf gardenia to the left of it. Maybe that's August Beauty. Looks like it just has finished flowering. A little further down onto the side, there's a Joe Pye weed. I'm guessing this is a dwarf Joe Pye weed. In the amount of shade that it's in here, it would be regular Joe Pye weed, be 7 feet tall if it wasn't a dwarf. So I'm guessing this is, and there's guaranteed to have a bee on your Joe Pye weed. Certain times of the day, especially when they're in the sun, the plant will just be moving with the bees that are on top of it. There's a blue flowering salvia here, and I actually have this one, and I cannot remember the name of it. It'll be on the screen as you guys are watching, and it will be as if I knew all along. I just can't remember the name off the top of my head. It is in a container back here. They did not actually put it in a container because they were just trying to decide where to put it. It's good though that this one's in a container planted in the ground like that, because this one is a running variety. This salvia can, as beautiful as it is, and as much as the pollinators love it, it can get out of control pretty quick. I'm actually going to put mine out by the street and allow the concrete to control it. And then behind it is a banana palm, which in its part shade condition. It's on the west side of their house, but there's trees over here, so it's not really getting very much direct sun, but it's doing fantastic in the part shade. Leaves are about 3 feet long on it at this point. Behind me, you can see a big, beautiful Japanese maple and some other plants planted back here. This is there's a couple lots behind them that are set aside. There's a creek down at the bottom, so this can't be developed behind them. So they have this beautiful private space behind them, and several interesting old planted ornamental trees back there. Including a sourwood. So when I first had the idea of shooting this video over here, I didn't know it would end up as 2 videos. There's just so many interesting pieces in this landscape, and I'll finish here at this Clerodendrum. Again, this is the thing that probably caught my eye the most in this landscape last summer, and and drew me to this space. Again, beautiful noxious weed. This is an interesting, no lawn garden. It's definitely a plant collector space, and I think they've done a pretty good job of organizing these pieces. If you're doing these onesie, one of this and one of that thing, it's kind of hard to design with it. I think they've done a great job with it. This is kind of how my space is. It's not for everybody. A lot of people would like a big, at least some green out here, and then have it clusters of 3s and 5s and 7s. I get that type of design as well, and show those things, but I'm definitely most drawn to a plant collector's landscape. Thank you guys for following along with these videos, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you'll see more of these interesting garden tours. Thanks for watching.